The screen opens in darkness, and slowly a single spotlight reveals the silhouette of a child standing on a vast stage. His small feet tap nervously, the sound echoing like a heartbeat, fragile yet determined. Then, without warning, the nervous tapping transforms into an explosion of movement, his body flowing with rhythm, his voice rising with power far beyond his years. The scene cuts rapidly, screaming fans reaching out with desperate hands, flashing cameras blinding him with relentless light, headlines splashed across newspapers questioning his every choice. And finally, the unforgettable image of Michael Jackson gliding across the floor in his iconic moonwalk, a move that would forever redefine performance. The narration begins, heavy with emotion. Imagine a boy who grew up under the weight of abuse, who faced relentless public scrutiny, who lived in a world that often misunderstood him. That boy became a man who transformed pain into power, and through music and dance, inspired the entire world. The orchestral score swells, strings rising like waves, drums pounding like the rhythm of his heartbeat, underscoring the paradox of his existence: fragile child versus global icon, victim versus visionary. The camera lingers on his face, young and vulnerable, then shifts to the electrifying energy of his concerts, where millions screamed his name, their voices merging into a single roar of devotion. Yet behind the roar, the silence of loneliness is hinted at, the cost of fame etched into his eyes. The montage intensifies. Images of Michael rehearsing tirelessly, sweat dripping, his body pushing past exhaustion, contrasted with tabloid covers mocking his appearance, dissecting his life, turning his humanity into spectacle. The narration continues. Michael Jackson was more than a performer. He was a soul who carried scars invisible to the world, yet chose to turn them into songs that healed others. His dance was not just movement, it was liberation. His music was not just entertainment, it was a cry for unity, for love, for hope. The visuals shift again. Children across continents imitating his moves. Crowds in Africa, Asia, Europe, and America singing his lyrics in unison, proving that his art transcended language, race, and borders. The orchestral music reaches a crescendo as the camera returns to the spotlight, now illuminating not the child but the man, dressed in his signature fedora and sequined glove, standing tall, commanding the stage, embodying resilience. The narration softens, almost a whisper. He was misunderstood, criticized, and broken, yet he never stopped creating. He never stopped believing in the power of music to heal. He never stopped dancing, even when the world tried to silence him. The final sequence of the hook shows a wave of fans holding candles, their lights flickering like stars, while Michael's silhouette fades into the glow, his legacy larger than life. The music halts suddenly, leaving only the echo of his words suspended in the air. From pain to power, Michael Jackson inspired the world. In that moment, the audience is drawn into the paradox of his story, compelled to witness how a fragile boy became a visionary man, and how his art continues to remind us that even in the deepest struggles, beauty can be born. Michael Jackson was born in 1958 in Gary, Indiana, into a working-class African-American family where survival meant discipline and sacrifice. His father, Joseph Jackson, worked tirelessly to provide for his children, but his strictness often crossed into abuse, leaving scars that would shape Michael's psyche for the rest of his life. From the earliest years, Michael's childhood was not defined by play or innocence, but by rehearsals, performances, and the constant demand for perfection. While other children ran through playgrounds, Michael stood under harsh lights, his voice carrying the weight of expectation, his small frame forced to embody the dreams of an entire family. This clash between innocence and exploitation became the foundation of his story. A boy robbed of childhood yet gifted with extraordinary talent, a boy who would grow into a man celebrated as the king of pop, but haunted by the shadows of his past. Fame arrived early, and with it came both blessing and curse. On one hand, it offered Michael escape from poverty and a platform to share his gift with the world. On the other, it imprisoned him in a cycle of scrutiny, pressure, and loneliness. The conflict was relentless trauma from his father's harsh discipline, the absence of a normal childhood, and the crushing demand to perform flawlessly. Later, as he rose to global superstardom, the spotlight became harsher, with tabloids dissecting his every move, mocking his appearance, and turning his humanity into spectacle. Yet through all of this, Michael found refuge in music and dance. They were not merely entertainment for him. They were healing, a universal language through which he could express emotions too deep for words. Every song was a confession, every dance a release, Every performance a bridge between his pain and the joy he wanted to give the world. His motivation was never just fame, it was the desire to spread love, unity, and hope, to remind humanity of its shared heartbeat. He believed that art could heal divisions, that rhythm could unite cultures, and that melody could inspire generations. Michael Jackson's life was a paradox. A man broken by trauma yet rebuilt by creativity. A soul misunderstood yet adored. A figure scrutinized yet immortalized. His journey was not simply about becoming a star. It was about transforming suffering into song, turning isolation into inspiration, and proving that even the most fragile child could grow into a visionary who touched billions. But to understand how Michael Jackson became the king of pop, we must first understand the battles he fought in silence. Michael Jackson's story begins with a childhood that was anything but ordinary. A childhood marked not by innocence, but by discipline, rehearsals, and the heavy hand of his father, Joseph Jackson. Joseph believed that perfection was the only path to success, and he imposed that belief on his children with relentless force. His methods were harsh, often abusive, leaving emotional scars that Michael carried throughout his life. Instead of playgrounds and carefree laughter, Michael's days were filled with rehearsals, tours, and performances. He was a boy forced to grow up too quickly, his childhood replaced by the demands of show business. This environment shaped Michael's perfectionism, his obsession with detail, and his constant fear of failure. Every note had to be flawless, every dance move precise, because mistakes were not tolerated. Yet, within this pressure, Michael found a way to escape through music. Music became his sanctuary, the one place where he could transform pain into beauty, where he could express emotions too deep for words. His drive to escape the shadows of his childhood fueled his creativity, pushing him to reach heights few could imagine. But greatness often grows from struggle, and it carries the weight of sacrifice. For Michael, the sacrifice was innocence. A normal childhood traded for the pursuit of excellence, a trade that gave him the world, but left him with wounds that never fully healed. As Michael grew older and rose to fame with the Jackson 5, the burden of the spotlight became another battle. The group's success catapulted him into stardom, and soon his solo career exploded, making him one of the most recognized figures on the planet. Yet with fame came scrutiny, and the brighter his star shone, the harsher the shadows around him grew. The media followed his every move, dissecting his life with relentless curiosity. Rumors spread about his appearance, his lifestyle, and his relationships, often overshadowing his artistry. Tabloids obsessed over his changing looks, speculating endlessly about surgeries and health, turning his personal struggles into public spectacle. For Michael, this constant attention was suffocating. He became isolated, misunderstood, and lonely, trapped in a world where his humanity was often ignored in favor of sensational headlines. Fame, which had once been a dream, became a prison. The very gift that allowed him to inspire millions also left him vulnerable to criticism and ridicule. His identity was distorted by the lens of public perception, and the man behind the music was often lost in the noise. The message of this chapter in his life is clear. The brighter the star, the harsher the shadows. Michael's brilliance illuminated the world, but it also attracted darkness that weighed heavily on his spirit. Despite the pain and scrutiny, Michael found salvation in his art. Music and dance were not just performances for him. They were lifelines, ways to heal himself and others. His albums Thriller, Bad, Dangerous were not only commercial successes but cultural milestones, redefining what music could be. Thriller became the best-selling album of all time, a testament to his ability to connect with audiences across the globe. His innovations in dance, from the moonwalk to gravity-defying moves, captivated millions and set new standards for performance. But beyond the spectacle, Michael's philosophy was profound. He believed that music could heal, that dance could liberate, that art could unite people regardless of race, language, or culture. Songs like Heal the World and Man in the Mirror carried messages of love, unity, and self-reflection, urging listeners to look within and make a difference. His performances were more than entertainment. They were calls to action, reminders of our shared humanity. Through his art, Michael turned pain into power, and power into inspiration. He showed that creativity could transcend suffering, that beauty could emerge from struggle, and that one person's voice could resonate across continents. Michael's legacy extends far beyond music. He was not only an entertainer, but also a humanitarian, using his fame to support causes and donate millions to charities. He visited hospitals, supported children's foundations, and spoke out for unity and peace. His influence reached generations of artists, inspiring performers like Beyonce, Usher, and countless others who saw in him a model of resilience and creativity. He broke racial barriers, becoming the first black artist to dominate MTV, opening doors for future generations. His impact was not limited to the stage. It was felt in culture, in activism, in the way people saw themselves and the world. Michael became a symbol of love, of perseverance, of the power of art to change lives. His story reminds us that a man can change the world when he dares to turn suffering into song. He took the pain of his childhood, the burden of fame, and the weight of scrutiny, and transformed them into melodies that inspired millions. His legacy is not just in records sold or awards won, but in the hearts he touched, the lives he changed, and the hope he gave to those who needed it most. Michael Jackson's journey from pain to power is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest struggles one can find light, and that through art that light can illuminate the world. Michael Jackson's life was a journey defined by contrasts, a story of relentless battles fought in silence and victories celebrated on the grandest stages. From the scars of childhood abuse to the suffocating weight of public scrutiny, he endured trials that could have broken anyone else, yet he chose to transform his suffering into something extraordinary. His weapon was not anger or bitterness, but music and dance forms of expression that became his salvation and his gift to the world.